Welcome to the Crypto and Blockchain Talk.
Hello.
Hey.
Guten Tag.
Aloha.
Hola. Shalom.
Hello.
Namaste.
Ni hao.
Privet.
Hello.
Salut. Yassas.
Salve.
Ciao.
Bonjour. Our podcast talks about the latest trends in the worlds of cryptocurrencies and the blockchain.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Crypto and Blockchain Talk. You know, I'm not going to start singing, at least not at this moment, everyone. And I won't even say to your relief, because I don't think I have that bad of a voice. If you've heard any of my music on the crypto radio station, our sister radio station, Crypto 24 Radio, some hear my dulcet tones, which I hope you don't turn off the radio station because I did try. But what I did do was I found someone to come onto this podcast who I think is going to give us marvelous insight in what is happening into the digital music space, everything that's happening in terms of NFTs and blockchain and all that good stuff. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Mattias Tengblad, and he is here to tell us about his company, Corite, and we'll also discuss some of the things going on in the news as we always do. But first, let's say hello to Mattias. Mattias, welcome to Crypto and Blockchain Talk.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy you are here. It would otherwise be a very one-sided conversation. And my name is Aviva Ounap. I am the host of Crypto and Blockchain Talk. So, Mattias, I need to know how and why. No, let's not even go there. I first want to know what it was that you were doing before Corite even started. I don't want to know about Corite yet. I want to know you doing to lead up to this space. Like, what was your degree in and what were you doing with your life?
Yeah, okay. It's a kind of a long story. This is not a video, but if it was, you would have seen my gray hair. So I've been around for a while.
Hey, listen, wait, no, before you go any further, I got to tell everyone that Mattias looks like the baby of a young Simon Cowell and Thor. He is a very good-looking guy. I think he uses like skincare selections from like the top grade like lines. He doesn't have a wrinkle on his face. He's a very handsome man, and I don't even want to hear about your gray hair. So go, tell us about your life.
Okay, so yeah, but seriously, I'm a music guy. I'm a music nerd, I would say. I grew up with a lot of music. I love different genres. I love everything from pop to rock to nowadays even the American hip hop and soul. I was doing a lot of music myself during the 90s, but I realized that was probably not going to be my profession. So I ended up as a consultant for several years. And then I was lucky. At the year of 2008, I ended up as the commercial director for Universal Music, which is the biggest record label globally. And I ended up the Stockholm office. And that was a very, very interesting time for being a music nerd, because it was when the last time the whole music industry totally shifted and revolutionized. It was I was basically hired the same day as Spotify was launching, meaning the CD was dead. And the era of streaming was born. So I spent like 5 years at Universal Music, and it was a really, really interesting journey where we learned a lot about how the music industry could shift so fast just because of one technology shift. And it was mostly to the good, because before that the music industry was going down the drain and everybody basically was sacked from the industry and nobody believed it. Everybody thought that music nowadays and in the future would be free because an MP3 was super easy to copy, and it was like on Pirate Bay. And Spotify and the other streaming service changed that model, and the revenue started to pour into the industry. And then we, from a Universal and label perspective, were sort of forced to come up with great, cool new ideas. So we, as like entrepreneurs, we created a big playlist service called Digster, which we launched globally in the Universal sphere, which is still the biggest Universal playlist service. And we did some other cool projects like trying to sort of find ways for independent artists to distribute the music on their own. I learned a lot, and then I left my favorite industry for a while because I got a great challenge working a couple of years for a big media house called MTG. And that was really interesting because I was primarily focusing on new business development, and I headed up the venture team, and we invested a lot into esports and gaming. So we bought ourselves the DreamHack Studios, and then we built that MTG organization, which is now one of the bigger producers of esports globally. But the important thing here, which we'll get to Corite at a later stage, is that I realized that the gaming industry, and in particular the esport industry with services, has been so much greater in creating new business models which engages both fans and the artist in that space, which is the gamers or the host of the shows, etc. While in the same time, the music industry, even though streaming was new, there was no artists. So it became more like a longer distance between fans and artists. And the business model was pretty much the same. The record labels like Universal Music were continuing to signing artists with record deals, and the fans were listening to music instead of CDs. But the rest was pretty much the same.
Are you published?
Yeah, you can find me. No, it's 90s stuff.
So what did you do at Universal?
I was the commercial director, meaning basically responsible for all revenues, new business development, and all these kind of stuff.
When you were sitting there that you went, they're doing this wrong. They really need blockchain, and this is a really stupid way for people to raise money for their projects, and there's so much more talent out there that we could I mean you must have been telling people, look, we can't take you, we can't sign you, and then as they were walking out the door you were going, damn, but they could have been good. I mean, is that what was happening?
Yes, to some extent. I would say these labels like Universal, Sony, and the other big ones, they're often pretty good at adapting to changes, and I think we're tried our best at Universal. But I think still, to your point, what happened with the digital revolution last time is that nowadays 70,000 songs are released on Spotify every single day. And I think there are at least a couple of 100,000 artists there that everyone would consider professional independent artists with the quality enough and the ambition enough to come at least successful enough to live on their art. And that kind of volume is nothing that the industry today can take care of. So just by volume, something needs to change. But it wasn't actually at Universal like this kind of, we got together, because I have a co-founder here who was part of the whole journey named Emil, who is not part of it. But at the point of the idea of Corite was basically based on the trend that, okay, how can we cope? What power out there is big enough to cope with these kind of volumes of professional artists? And the only power we saw big enough was the fan and the power of the audience. So, and that's why the idea is basically what you do at Corite, you enabling people to back music you love with money and activity and engagement, and then you have a chance of sharing the revenue with the artist as the music streams on services like Spotify and Apple. The idea is basically, imagine if you found Ed Sheeran on the street of London 12 years ago before his first single, and you had a chance of backing him with, let's say, £10. And then what happens is that you get a piece of his revenue to stream, and now he has streamed billions of times of these services, meaning in this case, which will happen very seldom, you would actually be able probably to buy a swimming pool for that tiny investment. So that is the thrilling point of investing in early artists. On top of that, you have this idea that the music industry has always been built on these relations between the guys that's on stage and all these people that are below the stage and watch the show. So this community, I would say, when I heard about blockchain and the vision for the first time, meaning the decentralization of organizations, the potential to build community-driven businesses, I thought that, okay, so the music industry is probably the perfect fit here, because you have an industry which is already built for that purpose, but based on sort of old school and historic restraints in technology, there is a lot of middlemen in between that try to sort of make and fix these problems. And the main problems that they try to fix in a world is the artist that want to sort of pursue his career, he will always need funding, and he will need some marketing and promotional support. That is basically what the record label are helping with. But if we instead could use the power of the fans to create or solve these problems, like giving the artist money enough to proceed with his career, but also a digital street team of people that are happy to engage because they're part of the business, we believe that is a power that probably will be able to solve the problem of hundreds of thousands of independent artists going forward, but also established artists that realize that the real power lays in the community rather than to have a great deal.
How long have you been involved in the blockchain space? And is that as long as you've had Corite? So how long have you been involved with Corite, I guess?
It's a couple of different answers on both, but the Corite idea came up 3.5 years ago. And the idea was that we need to sort of bring the fan power into the music industry and try to build something which will connect fans and music lovers more tight to the artists they love and the music they listen to. So that's the Corite idea. And what we did at that point, I wasn't into the blockchain space and I didn't know that much about it. We started up a pilot basically in a fiat environment, trying to, testing the concept. And we've been doing so for like 2 years. But then one and a half year or two, maybe 2 years ago, we realized that this trend of blockchain, and I read up a bit on the whole sort of utopia of which is this decentralization and the power of the community, and realized that this technology must be the best fit for our vision. So then we started to explore, and we were worked for quite a long time. This spring we released our first beta version of the blockchain product, which we now will develop over the years to come. Today, distribution is a kind of commodity. It's kind of easy to get a music out there, and there are several companies like us helping artists pushing music into these services.
You see, that's where your other comment about how these big music houses like Apple and Sony and their big push for the artist is obviously on the marketing front, marketing and the PR and everything else and advertising. How is it that when you've got 70,000 every day, which are obviously compiling, so that pile is growing constantly, once that's a lot of weeds until you find that one artist just to kind of then bring it over to the Corite platform. That's a lot to go through until you find that one artist who you think is going to be the next Ed Sheeran. I mean, how is that going to happen on Corite that will be better than, let's say, one of the old school platforms that's not blockchain led?
One important thing to sort of clarify is like we are not like a competitor to Spotify or any other streaming service. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to solve what you just described, the marketing and promotional problem for artists to get out and cut through this noise of 70,000 people. So you should rather compare us with a record label and how they do things. We try to help artists. So
sorry, that's what I was trying to get to. I wasn't comparing you to Spotify. I was comparing you to like the old school record labels.
Sure. But then the explanation is pretty simple, I would say. So looking at the problem for any artist who has one of those 70,000 songs and put it out on Spotify a certain Friday, is that how the hell should I cut through the noise here? Because there's so much else. How will I find my audience, get help to reach people? And to do so, you need to use like traditional media. You need to use PR, you need to do digital advertising, you need to do a lot of stuff, but apparently you need to also have great music. And all these things that I just mentioned costs money. So without a budget, you have a very poor chance of reaching out there, even though you have talent. So talent is the most important part. So if you have the talent and you work hard, you will be able to produce a very good song with your laptop computer and not that much of equipment around you. But then you need all the rest. So you need to be have a quality enough, and you need to be ambitious enough. And then you need a budget. That's the first problem. So, and that you can do it historically in the old school way. You go to a record company, and then if you're lucky, you get signed with a record contract, which means that you get an advance. And that advance you then need to have to pay back, and you get, which is normally around like 20%. So if you get $10,000 in advance for a song from a record label, you have to earn the record label $50,000 where you get a single penny more than that advance. And that's the way it works. So $10,000 on Corite from, let's say, 1,000 backers. Then you do a deal with your fans instead. And you will, of course, pay back those backers you got, but that's taken from the top. So when you have earned $10,000 and split the revenue on a percentage level that you as an artist set. So you are basically setting your own deal. And of course you need to sell that to your audience. What you do on the funding side is that you can get the same kind of money from one single decentralized fans out there. But then comes the fun part, because then you have these 1,000 people out there that has supported you and backed you with, let's say, $10 each. And now comes the next problem, because now you have the money, so you have been able to use a great producer and a mixer, and you maybe even bought your first microphone. So you produced a very, very good song. So now it's about marketing and promotion of this song. And now instead of in the old world, you were sort of, you hoped a lot that signed to would live up to the promises of doing great promotion and marketing. But in this case with Corite, you have 1,000 people that you have already on your own engaged in this campaign. And Corite as a platform will now help you to use also market and promote your music, which is a totally unique marketing asset you will never get anywhere else. So you can use the money to buy yourself some marketing, and you also have all these backers that is basically the reason for us getting in very, very soon, which we call missions. We will be able to reward different types of behavior that helps these backers to become even more engaged. So they show on their socials, so maybe they follow you on your Spotify channel. And even so, just as we did with this big DJ that we're working with, Alan Walker, I don't know if you know him, but he has like 115 million followers on social media, and his biggest song, Faded, has been times on streaming services. And we did a campaign with him this spring where he managed to get 3,000 backers into the project. And the cool thing now, what we're doing, just this, adding on another element, which is the marketing of the project. So now he created 3 music videos that we split it up in like 75 pieces, turned them into NFTs. And now the competition is to sort of find these NFTs in a scavenger hunt over the internet. And then when you have that NFT, you're supposed to share it on your Twitter and collect all these things together, so we sort of get the whole video ready based on all backers' engagement. Then Alan will go on his YouTube channel with over 50 million subscribers, and all the backers that has been part of this project will share their YouTube revenue that comes from the videos. So that is how we treat the marketing element, just trying to use and engage the new fans in a way that's never been done before, that could help the artist cut through the noise among all these 70,000 songs.
Well, how is that going so far?
Yeah, it's been super well received, I would say. I think after less than a week, people have found and minted over 60% of all NFTs, and we're closing in on 100, I guess. So, and hopefully everything will be done. So it's every piece here. I said it's 25 pieces per video, so it's in total 75 different pieces with like video clips on like 5 seconds each. And then we have done 100 versions of each of them. So in total, there are 70,500 NFTs to find. But I think we will announce the total result of this during next week. And then the videos will be released as soon as people have found all the segments of the video.
I love scavenger hunts. I love things that, make it into a little bit of a game, especially because you have this like e-gaming love. It sounds last anyway. But I got a really serious question to ask you here now. So in the catalog of podcasts that I've done before, and I thought about this even before you came on, because I've interviewed other companies who have had very similar ideas to what is, to what you're doing here. Obviously not the idea of, teaming up with somebody like Alan Walker and coming up with the scavenger hunt. I mean, that's marketing brilliance. But, they're talking basically artists coming on, letting the community support their projects, their music, and then obviously the artist would set the level of or set the contract of, what person who's investing in their music they would get from it. And from the other music NFT platforms, or the other music platforms in some instances that have done how they have done, is really didn't do very well at all. So I want to ask you this. Do you think your brilliant idea, because it is brilliant, there's no two ways about it, this is an absolutely fantastic platform and idea. And obviously I'm going to ask you in a minute what makes you different from these other NFT music platforms. But do you think you're still too early in this space? Because, adoption just in crypto in general and in blockchain in general is still spinning a lot of people's heads this and that way. And especially with what's going on in the marketplace, there's right now, obviously volatility brings with it a whole host of problems. Are you guys prepared to actually wait, like do the long haul on this? Because in my opinion, brilliant ideas like this are still, I think, a little early. What do you have to say on that?
I think one very important point here is like sort of teach people things about this new technology.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking our way of doing this is, I would say we're trying to sort of place better safe than sorry. So on Corite today, which really, you are able to do a lot of things using the Web 2 environment, using fiat money or normal dollars or pounds or Swedish kroners to invest in song shares with songs. And what we're trying to do is basically to get Web 2 users and the normal music fans out there, and also artists for that sake. Not all artists know that much about crypto yet. So I think the music industry is probably as the rest. It's probably 5% of the total global music that knows anything about crypto, but that I'm pretty sure it will grow pretty fast. So in a year or so, we'll probably have 10%. And then 2 years from now, it's probably 25. And then you have mass market. So I think as an entrepreneur, you need to be early, but you need not to be too early. So you need to have, that's when you get successful. So
Absolutely.
I sincerely hope we have the perfect timing. But what we're doing to sort of save our bets a bit is that we are having services that are potential to use for not crypto users. And then when we get them in these kind of fan campaigns, which is about investing let's say small amounts, because this is important as well, because in the normal in the crypto space the last couple of years, you have seen a lot of scams and you have seen a lot of crazy projects where you sell basic value for a shit ton of dollars. We're not about that. What we're doing is that we're offering a chance for music lovers to invest in artists and projects they really love, but the normal investment is rather $10 to $30. So it's instead of buying to a show on a pub or whatever, that is the kind of investment we're talking about. And then the fun part is that you get closer to the artist, you get part of the community, and you have this chance of participating in a project like game. So basically helping the lab to reach success. And that we need to find a model where it makes people who are music lovers that wants to engage with music they and are prepared to back artists. That is the core of Corite. And that's also, I believe, during the time when you engage with the service with like from a fiat perspective, we will have time enough to engage you. So you hook up your wallet, you realize that if you do missions using crypto, you have a chance of fun. And then comes the NFT, which gives you more utilities and real values from a certain artist, just like the Alan Walker case. And it's about teaching and taking things step by step. And we're definitely in it for the long run. This won't happen overnight. I'm about that. But I'm also 100% sure that in a 10-year perspective, I would bet that at least 10-20% of the total music industry will be run by projects like this. And if we're good and do it well, we will have a good chance of grabbing a big chunk of the new generation of music industry, which I believe that's our ambition. We think that we need to stay for a long time. We need to do the right stuff and execute well. And then we have a chance of actually changing things that we think needs to change. But having said that, of course, there will be struggles along the way.
Look, I definitely think that the 10-year plan, I think that's about right, to be quite frank with you. Because you see, the thing is that you've got this, you're with a brilliant idea, but still with, everyone keeps saying, and this is the interesting thing, because everyone's like, oh, well, the crypto space and the NFT space is just full of really young, and, they're all so young and they're really tech savvy. That's a myth. Just because I think people are confusing, because a lot of adoption, the problem with a lot of adoption into these things is if you make it super simple and easy, and actually many of my podcasts actually talk about like user interface, and we'll talk about that in a minute when it comes to Corite, because the easier you make obviously that user interface, the more adoption you're going to have, whatever it comes to, even when I was talking a couple ago, we were talking about what's going on in terms of like these multi-chain solutions, and my answer to one comment that was made was the only problem is that in many of these multi-chains realize that you need more than one wallet. You need the wallet you need a wallet for each one of those chains in some instances, not in every instance, but there's these possibilities, and that's like an extra layer of education. So I guess my question to you, and kind of going around the bushes the long way, is how are you guys making your platform, and I mean this with the greatest of respect, how are you dumbing this down? How are you making this easy enough so that somebody who is not familiar with this space piece, that's where you get your growth, right?
Yeah.
How are you making this simple, stupid for everybody?
Well, that is a challenge because we're in the early stage. I think the blockchain space is like the internet was like in the end of the 90s, where a lot of people talked about things that happened, but all these great things basically happened, but it took like 10 years rather than one. So that's one perspective. But I think what we can do right now, I'm pretty convinced, and you see all these developments around you doing like custodians and stuff, which makes it simpler to people to onboard and sort of. I think if you compare the blockchain environment now and go back like 1.5 years, it's so much simpler to enter the space than it was like 2 years ago. If you go in 1 year ahead, it will be better. And as a company like Corite, we need to focus on our product, what we can do to make it as simple as possible and as valuable as possible for both the backers and the fans, but also for the artists. And then we need to trust the process, because a lot of other developments around us that we can use to our benefit and partner with great wallet solutions, great login solutions, whatever come up. So in the end, like in a couple of years from now, I bet that it will be as easy to enter the blockchain space as it is to sign up with a Facebook connect. So that is where we need to head. And when the blockchain and the Web3 reached mass market, I'm 100% sure, because it needs to be as simple as the Web2 is and even was like 10 years ago. So I think, but still, we can't, from a Corite perspective, I don't think we can solve everything on our own. We need to sort of also stay tuned with what's happening around us and make sure to sort of use the services that we can partner with to our benefit, so we don't have to build everything. And that's, I think, but also I think myself, I'm kind of looking at the history. It's also kind of interesting. I'm a true believer of execution. So if you manage to do things well and do these things right. So when I started at University of Music 2008, there were a couple of competitive streaming services out there. There was one from Nokia, which at the time was the biggest mobile phone supplier on the planet, and it was another one from Sony Ericsson, which was called the Walkman music brand, with the next biggest telco out there. And then you have several other players that were competing. But then come this green little fellow from Sweden called Spotify, which actually did the best service, and that what made them great, and that made them survive. But nobody knew that 2008. You knew it like 2013, but still, at that time, 2013, Spotify was generating 93% of the revenue, I believe, to Universal Music. Still, as of today, 2022, which is 9 years later, streaming is not generating 93% of the total revenue to the music industry. It's quite far from that. It's more like in the range of 60%. So still, the world has still quite a big time, many years to catch up with Scandinavia to that extent of streaming, which is now considered like old news. So that's the same thing. Some companies and products will be earned, and they will take leadership and try to build this new industry going forward. Some others will fail, and hopefully I'm not one of the failures in the end, or Corite, and hopefully Corite will become one of the success stories that you will touch on now.
I gotta tell you, and I do have this magic Aviva touch. I also have a crystal ball, which seems to work more than not. If anything, it's actually extremely accurate. I honestly think you're going to make it, but I think make it. But I do also think that it's going to be the long haul. This is not that famous expression. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. I mean, because it's mercy of obviously adoption. And this is the problem. There's a lot of issues right now when it comes to getting people and educating them and getting them over this, like it is going to become with every iteration of whatever's happening out there. It is about coming up with a better UI UX, a different experience, an easier experience. But, you're obviously on the right track. You're also listed on Binance's recommended collections of NFTs. I mean, right, in Alan Walker originals, it's looking pretty good for you. I mean, you guys are obviously making those partnerships to make this happen. So what else do you have then in the pipeline in terms of partnerships?
Well, we're doing a lot of stuff actually, but right now we're focusing very much on the product, I would say. So it's about I mentioned this mission thing. That's vision of ours that we will create this set of missions to be able to sort of reach the backers we can do today. And that's also when we eventually launch our token, it will be a part of that ecosystem to try to sort of create like a gamified experience, which is not only about points for a certain track. It's basically how we can build a community together and create value. Because I think in the end, if we have a community, let's say in a year or two, we will have like 2 million people in the Corite platform that are music lovers that are there to support the next big thing. It's fairly easy to your point earlier, to attract artists. So for us, it's about attracting music lovers and attracting artists to the platform to grow crazy fast in that sense. And then on top of that, we need to develop and release new stuff on like a consistent basis. But one thing I want to mention in the upcoming weeks is actually really, really exciting. It's more like a fun project. It's we're doing a big partnership with a Sweden festival called Station Driven Festival, and we are creating just to sort of showcase what NFTs could be. We're doing an art project together, and it's called Way Out West Moments, or Wow Moments. So the audience of the festival, which every year it sells like 50,000 tickets, and it's been going on for 14 years. So what we will do is that we will let the audience give us the moment of their history. So basically, I'm at the front of the stage of Prince when he was playing Purple Rain at Way Out West. Then what we do, we put that text into an AI engine and create a piece of art based on everything that's sort of shot with photos, videos, and the AI engine will create a piece of art that will turn into an NFT and then eventually end up in a gallery with AR technology within the festival area. So you will be able to walk around with the Live Nation application and just check all these pieces of moments in this very, very beautiful park where the festival is held. That will happen in August. And then also some of them, the greatest moments will be showed off as, behind the scene on the stages and everywhere. So it will be like a showcase on how you can use NFTs not only as as it's been before, but as a piece of technology that create exclusive pieces of art based on a very nice music festival experience. So that's fun.
Really meet your wife at a Prince concert?
I actually didn't. I met her many years earlier than that, but I wish I did.
I was like, wow, that's so romantic. Oh man, it was just for reference point. Okay. So, well, I'll get away from Prince for a minute.
But you can imagine that piece of art. That will be beautiful, at least from a personal perspective. And then we'll see, maybe somebody will buy that because it's a great story. Who knows?
Well, let's all hope as well that everyone who's at that festival is supposed to be there and not with somebody they're not, and then it becomes an NFT. I'd laugh my ass off. You have this project. You're in Sweden. There's a lot of, I want to even say all of the Scandinavian pretty closely knit, and everyone gets on well with everyone. There's a lot of music schools there and stuff like that. I mean, are you guys also hitting out to these kinds of places? Because a lot of these grassroots bands that, they do have a kind of, I would say, loyal and in some cases almost feral following. So do you guys actually do a lot of local outreach, and are you really getting people engaged on the local level? Or that you just said the WOW Festival, which is obviously very local, but I'm talking about really getting into all of those musicians, because so are you actually engaging on that ground level so that it does grow? People are like, oh yeah, Magnus has this really amazing NFT coming out, his music NFT coming out. I think I'm going to actually invest in it.
We are a digital platform, and we need to we need to become a global platform. So that in itself, it's a tough relation between trying to become global and also focus a lot locally. But I think to your point, this fan / artist relations are built from local space. So of course we try. We're from Stockholm, so we're here, and we realized if you have, like, say, if we create a co-write evening, a showcase where we bring up 5 of these bands that you're talking about, like great bands on a local level, and they play on stage, and our host says, hey, did you know that you can invest in this great band $10 and you have a piece of the royalties when it starts to stream on Spotify? Every time we did this, we always sell out all the campaigns in like no time. So it's obviously a very efficient way for artists to get fundraised. Just as they, in the history, they put out 102 CDs that they have created on their own, and they sold it after the gig. That's exactly the same thing. So, but we're doing stuff. So I think as we grow, we will try to set up different types of products. So I would say finding could help us with live showcases to create scenes for artists that delivers and distributes songs with us. That's one thing. We're doing partnerships, for instance, in Australia, which is pretty far from Sweden, with a producer community called 4,000 Studios. And these guys are the main producers of Australia. One of them, Constantine, he produced this cool song, Dance Monkey, with Tony, that has billions of streams. So that community has a studio complex where we're now partnership. So we bring in independent artists to just use the space and record stuff. And by doing these kind of marketing and promotional partnerships, we believe that we need to basically spread our brand, because when you know about co-write, it doesn't really matter if you're in Stockholm or Brisbane, it works the same. So you go surf event in Brisbane, and you can gather your 200 closest friends and family, and you can raise some money on the co-write platform, and we don't have to be there in person, even though if we want to. So that we try to use digital in a physical kind of way, because but communities are built digitally today, and we just need to sort of catch the moments and try to sort of find the ways of interacting locally, and also educate people, because I think as an artist, an independent artist in particular, you need to sort of create these kind of happenings on your own. You should do a release party, and you should try to do a co-write campaign in parallel with that. So these are things that we can teach artists how to do a good campaign, and what kind of tools you should use to make a successful fundraising. And these are things we need to sort of be more sort of educational about over time as we grow.
You know, with great music, because there is a lot of great music in this world that people have yet to go to, and a lot of great artists need and want that exposure. And that's the other thing, because I really do believe that when things grow local, they really take a hold in so many ways when it comes to music, especially because that's how those followings kind of happen. But, you know, you're right. You are growing this. You're already, it sounds like, global anyway. But, you know, this is the thing. Sweden is also known for having, I mean, some of the biggest bands in the world do come from Sweden. So local foothold is actually a global foothold. In the United Kingdom with like this live ABBA show. And, you know, you've got people who are going there who are like between 18, because, you know, it's a cult thing now. It's kind of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, where you kind of like show up dressed up. And now that you know this, but like you have adults, well, they are adults, you know, 18 to 25-year-olds showing up dressed as minions in like huge packs to the Minion movies. It's got like this like cult following. I mean, I'm not being funny. I know Sweden's like a pretty big country, but still very small. And you used to work for a pretty big music house yourself. I mean, is there anyone there that you've kind of been calling on the slot going, hey, listen, I have this amazing project going on. Do you want to actually release something? Is there anything that you can, I mean, are you guys actually doing that kind of stuff with the people who are well known in Sweden?
Danny Saucedo, who was very early on to our platform and actually became one of our investors as well. So he was one of the first cases we did in our Swedish Fiat pilot like 2 years ago. It took like 1 hour and then we were done. So yes, we had some early big Swedish cases. I was actually, before I joined Co-Write, I was the CEO of the Pop House Group, which is a group that right now has released this ABBA show in London, and that hosts all the rights.
Are you serious?
Yes. So I was working pretty close to Björn Ulvaeus in ABBA, and ABBA is that's the sort of cornerstone of Sweden. But what we're actually doing right now on Co-Write is working with Alan Walker. He's not Swedish, but he's Norwegian, and that's Scandinavian too. What we need to do, and what is like the key for everything, in different sort of genres and different kind of positions in their careers, etc. So Alan is the perfect role model for being this superstar DJ with a huge crowd around music industry in the normal way for several years, and now realize that I want to do things differently. I want to work closer with my audience. So for instance, the first project we did with him this spring with Unity was a song that he actually co-created together with his fans. So we plus producers on the track, which has done everything from the bass lines to the synths to the beats to the vocals. So, and then we did a co-write campaign, engaged like 3,000 backers, and then we do things differently from our perspective. So that I sincerely hope that we will do more stuff with great Swedish artists in the future, but I can't give you any promises as for now. But then you have the other way we need to sort of treat this is that we need to find great cases from smaller industries that can use co-write from the get-go without having a great audience to start with, maybe only their friends and family, and then use our concept to grow, to get to the place where you have like 1 million followers and monthly listeners on Spotify, and people will start to call you. And then it's our challenge to say, okay, well, you can take one of those old school contracts, but what if you don't do that and continue to use co-write to build your global audience? These are the cases that build over the next few years, and we have a couple of promising acts in our roster already, which will be interesting to follow.
Going back to the question I was asking before, like I already said, I believe that the way to go global is also to go very organic. I believe in the field of dreams. So I'm just thinking for a minute and thinking about all of the music schools that are just in like Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, and I'll even throw in Estonia there. Where would someone go if they're listening to this podcast, and it doesn't matter where in the world they are, if you have a competition going on, or if you just want to sign up, where would this information be found?
So if you're an artist, regardless size and regardless stage of career, and you think you have great music, just go to co-write.com, sign up with any kind of login you prefer, and then you set up a campaign. It will take you 5 minutes, and then you get going. What we do, we will moderate, so we don't let everything pass. We just help there, and then but it's a totally open service, co-write today. As long as you have the quality and some people around you that you believe will support you, it will work for you. And then we help you with the distribution, and we can also help you with some marketing ideas and stuff around that. Super open service. But to your question with music school, that's a great idea. We have tried it out in a Swedish perspective. There's a great producer school called the Music Makers in the northern parts of Sweden, which the last 10 years have graduated most of the people that do Swedish export pop music today. We have had a couple of years together with them, and every spring we release around 5 to 10 different music projects from these up-and-coming new producers that eventually Max Martins. So this is a perfect platform for us to sort of get artists to understand our model and try it out at an early stage. And it also gives us great music at an early stage for fans to back. So I think that's a thing we really want to explore when we get ourselves sort of established in more bigger markets than Scandinavia, and try to hook up partnerships with all these kind of producers and artist schools to get people on the platform early. If you're an artist out there and want to do a campaign, you upload your campaign at co-write, and if you click on the browse, you can go to the without signing up if you're on the front page right now. What happens is that you upload some data around your music, and you upload your music, and then all of a sudden you have a co-write campaign. Then when the campaign is fully funded, we will help you with the distribution. So every single platform out there of relevance, like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and all Amazon, as all the logos you see on the site, basically. Yes, we have commercial partnerships with these guys, so we are official to these platforms, and then we collect all royalties that comes from these platforms, comes back to co-write, and we split those royalties among all the backers and the artists simultaneously. That's how we do things. And since May, you can also invest in the artist using cryptocurrency, and you will get paid in cryptocurrencies when you get there. And all these song shares that you acquire, which is the name of the revenue right that you buy, will end up on the BNB blockchain.
First of all, I'm going to do a disclaimer. I'm going to do an official disclaimer right now. So nothing that Mattias nor myself are talking about on this podcast can possibly be financial advice. You must do your own homework, your own due diligence, and your own research. So on that note,
could I add something to this? Because I really love something because I think this is the core for our vision. And we try to tell our customers that all the time. You shouldn't invest with a wallet when you invest in artists. You should invest by heart. And that's also why we urge people not to do like crazy big investments. The average investment is and normal size is this because somebody, of course, invest a bit more, but most of people invest like $10 or $20. So it's instead of buying a ticket to a show, instead of buying a beer at the show, you should put some money into it because then you not only can listen to this great music, but the success. So that is how you should treat co-write investments. This is not about saving money for your pension. This is pure fun. It's fun investment. It's supposed to be an entertainment experience. But of course, you should, if you consider this as financial investment, you should definitely know everything about it and realize the risk with it. Because even if you're a record label, investing in an artist project is really, really risky. Your song will become a hit or not. And it happens in the record label. When they do their calculations, they consider like if they have a success rate of like every 10th of the songs they're releasing, it's a good putting money into one song will always be a very risky thing to do. So you should consider this as consumption, as a fun thing that you want to participate in. The problem we're trying to solve here is one is bring in the money, of course. The other is more important. It is bring the crowd because we need the crowd to market and promote the music.
Well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to upload my Christmas album to Co-Write. And I am just going to see how easy it is to maneuver, and we can have a follow-up podcast. I am going to give a good go to, I'm going to actually test drive your platform. Is that okay with you?
I'm like encouraging everyone to try our service out and also give us feedback because we know we're not fully done, but we also believe we have done great. So, and I think this is part of the whole Web3 idea. It's like we need to build this service together with the community, and eventually we will have like trying to get like a governance structure where fans and artists actually are part of. It's like it's so important to get the feedback because we can sit on our nice little office and figure out a lot of ideas, but eventually the people that use the service will be the one that comes up with the great ideas, I guess. So yeah, I'm super happy to get your feedback. Whenever you have it.
I'm going to test drive this product. And then what's the next big thing you have coming out, you said? And then we can combine it with that. You said you have some kind of big release.
Yeah, I would say the cool thing would be if you tried it out. Maybe as an artist, if I didn't misunderstand you, you have a Christmas song album coming up. That's great. But also as a backer, I think when we launch our missions in a couple of weeks, I think that's a great time to join the platform. You can of course join it before that, but you won't find the missions. But I think, and the way we try to sort of start engaging people in a more active way, that is what's driving me right now.
Okay, so when's Missions coming out?
I can't tell you the exact date, but we're talking weeks.
Okay.
Will do.
So that's what we'll do. Yes, my crypto Christmas album is going to be uploaded. It's a scream. I tell you what, it's absolutely hysterical. Everything I do when it comes to music is just to make people laugh. So what I will do is I will wait till that is out. I will then upload my crypto Christmas album. And we will then have a follow-up podcast where I will give my absolute honest opinion to everything. Is that nervous laughter?
No, not at all. I really love this. This will be one of the most fun projects ever.
All righty. Well, I like this already. I'm looking forward to it. You know, Mattias, I can't thank you enough for coming on to Crypto and Blockchain Talk. You are an absolutely fantastic and interesting person.
Oh, thank you so much. Ditto. So, after this call, we have a project going on. So we need to work on this one. It's the Crypto Christmas album. That will be the major success of the fall. We will manage to get like a crazy amount of and the crypto will be bananas about this. I'm 100% in.
I gotta tell you, well, at least when I'll send you the lyrics if you want to one of the songs. I think
if you are being harsh on our product, I will put you through our moderation, so you will get your share of feedback as well.
Well, let me tell you something. I've already had the feedback. And I mean, like, more than I ever bargained. Some people are like, this is absolutely hysterical. Not one person has told me I have the best voice in the world. But that's not what this is about. It's actually not too bad in terms of a comedy album. So, okay, so that note, I, again, can't wait for you to come back on. It's going to be a scream. I would like to thank all of our listeners for tuning into this week's edition of Crypto and Blockchain Talk. Please remember to tell your friends and family all about these beautiful podcasts where we stream on over 70 different podcasting platforms. We have a partial list on cryptoandblockchaintalk.com. We'll get that updated for you as soon as possible. But don't forget, we also stream these beautiful podcasts on our sister radio station, www.crypto24radio.com. That's crypto24radio.com, playing 24/7 around the world for your listening pleasure, news, music, and more. Furthermore, we love to hear from you. And of course, you can contact us through our social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. But on top of that, we love to hear from you directly. That's our preferred method of communication. So please feel free to email us. Yes, email us at education@savvydigital.com. That's education@savvy, S-A-V-I-I, digital.com. When you tune into us, you have no idea what it means to me and my team. We appreciate it so much. We really don't take you for granted because we really care. So please be safe, take care of yourself, and goodbye for now.